So, the main topic of our video today is neuroplasticity and how we can use that to rewire and reform our brain. We have to scroll through social media, which is a big part of stress nowadays. I need the reality check. You need the reality check. Hey guys, this is Sunita and welcome to my channel. Today we are here to talk about a very interesting topic, and it is one of the hot topic on social media right now. So I came across this topic on TikTok. I saw somebody talk about how the brain can be reformed and rewired for our own positive benefits and for our success, and that kind of intrigued me. So that's why one random night I decided to listen to this podcast called the Brain Health Revolution podcast. And I am so happy that I listened to that podcast because it kind of shifted my mind and how I see productivity and, practical thoughts and stuff. I have put the link for that podcast down in the description below, so make sure you check that as well. Now, shifting our focus back to the topic, I was really overthinking if I should share this topic right now or just wait until I get few more subscribers. But then I was like, I listened to this podcast not so long ago, like maybe a week ago, and it's still fresh in my mind, so I should share it now. I also did some of my research to gain more insight on the topic. So without any further ado, let's get into the topic. So, the main topic of our video today is neuroplasticity and how we can use that to rewire and reform our brain for our success, for positive results, or for healthy brain. So, I have my notes put together on the iPad because it's a lot and I don't want to share any wrong information. I want to make sure that I get all of these. So, I'll be referencing back to this when I'm talking with you guys. So hopefully you will understand. First and foremost, I'm gonna explain what neuroplasticity is because it is really important to know what neuroplasticity actually is before getting into how we can use it for our positive success. The textbook definition, as per podcast and as per my own research, I put together a final simple definition. So, neuroplasticity, which is also known as neural plasticity, is the brain's capacity to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life, which enable adaptation, learning, and recovery from injuries. It's basically brain reforming itself or rewiring itself throughout our life, depending on our activities, our environment, adaptations, and everything. When we think about reforming and rewiring of brain, let's just think about it simply like since our childhood, we learn so many different things. Our environment shape ourselves and our mind as well. That literally is neuroplasticity. What goes around us is what goes inside our head as well. So that's why like people have different belief system, they have different perspective, different opinions, different just thought process. That literally is neuroplasticity. It's all about neural connection in our head. So let's talk about the processes in neuroplasticity. I will try my best to not get too technical with the definition and processes and everything. I really tried to make it as simple as possible in my notes, and that's what I'm going to do with the video as well because I don't want to complicate things. So the processes, there are two types of neuroplasticity: adaptive and maladaptive. So adaptive just means neural connection developing based on our adaptations to environment, the belief system that we grew into, and everything. Regarding maladaptive, I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later. Talking about adaptive neural plasticity, there are three different mechanisms in which that happens. I'm gonna do a brief again. Neuroplasticity, two processes: adaptive, maladaptive. Adaptive neural plasticity, there are three different mechanisms. So the first mechanism is synaptic plasticity. So the synaptic plasticity is the ability of our brain to strengthen or weaken the neural connection depending on environment and experience. So suppose this is one neuron and this is another neuron, they communicate with each other and there is tiny gap between them. That is called synapses. And these connection can get stronger over time or it can get weak over time. When the connection gets stronger, signals passes through easily. But when it gets weakened, signal cannot pass as easily. These communication is how our brain learn, adapt, and remember throughout our life. To give an example of synaptic plasticity, let's talk about our pathway from work to home. Let's say you walk the same path every day from your work to home. So you get off the work, you literally go on that pathway without thinking much because that's what you do every day. Let's say you stop using that pathway for a few days. Then what happens is it gets overgrown and the pathway is not as clear and not as faster to you as it used to before because now you have stopped using it. The connection in your brain for that pathway is broken or it's not as strong as before. And that literally what synaptic plasticity is. The more you experience something, the more frequent your environment is, the stronger the connection gets in your brain, and that somehow becomes your default. So another mechanism is neurogenesis. So the neurogenesis is simply the formation of new brain cells. Where does that form? It forms in the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain responsible and important for memory and learning. New brain cells formation is not a single step and it's not like cells suddenly formed. It is a step by step process. It starts from stem cells. Stem cells develop, it divides, and then new cells form and the new neurons connect to already existing neurons and it becomes a part of the brain circuit overall. This comes when you are exposed to new environment, new challenges. That's when new neural cells come into play. You can probably see where all this is leading to. Like I said, it's really interesting topic and it's really amazing how all these dots connect to a single thing and it's really interesting. So neurogenesis aids in mood regulation, adaptation to new environment, and recovery from injuries. So what's the difference between synaptic plasticity and neurogenesis? Synaptic plasticity means the brain can make changes within the existing brain cells, but neurogenesis is like complete new formation of brain cells. So think of it as like you have a garden, the plants are already there and you take care of those plants and the growth of the plant depends on how good or bad you take care of it. Neurogenesis, on the other hand, is you plant completely new seeds and it requires completely different environment compared to this one. So you see the difference, it's really clear, but at the same time, at the end, they connect to a single dot. The last but not least mechanism of our topic today, neuroplasticity, is functional reorganization. Functional reorganization, by its name, you can probably tell what it possibly could mean. It is literally the ability of our brain to reorganize its function. If one of its parts does not work as strongly as before, it will reorganize that function to a different reason. So those were three mechanisms of neuroplasticity, the ways in which our brain reforms and rewires itself based on environment, experience, new challenges, new environment, injuries. Let's talk about maladaptive plasticity now. It is a bad result of neuroplasticity in which bad pattern or wrong pattern repeats way too much, which is now a default setting in our brain, and that results in negative. So, maladaptive plasticity is associated with depression, anxiety, and addiction. Because the negative thought pattern repeats way too much when someone is under this depression or anxiety, now the default setting for their brain cell is anxiousness, negative thought pattern, negative feelings. With anxiety, stress, I can talk about those openly because I had to deal with those stuff. I was able to overcome those, and I listened to that podcast, and now I learned about neuroplasticity. It makes so much sense. Why maladaptive plasticity is important, even though it's a bad result of neuroplasticity. It is important because it can help us to know about the reasons why some bad pattern still continues even after getting the root cause out. So, just like in anxiety or stress, even though you are able to change your environment, your experience, because that pattern has been repeated so much and the connection is so stronger, negative pattern still continues, and it takes so much time and effort to break that pattern, break that connection, and form the new connection and form the new experience and rewire our brain. That is why neuroplasticity is so much important. And I'm glad that I'm making this video because it's such a good insight to how our brain works and how we can actually get out of our fear and anxious mind. That was the basic of neuroplasticity, what it is, how it works, and what is the good and bad impact of neuroplasticity. Now, moving forward to what causes reduced neuroplasticity and neural damage. First and foremost, let's talk about oxidative stress. Oxidative stress happens when there are more free radicals in our body than our body can protect us from. Our body produces energy every day. When we are sleeping, when we're eating, throughout our life, it's nonstop. And when it does so, it produces free molecule. But when our body produces too much energy, there are too much free molecules or free radicals. Without protection to all of these free radicals, that becomes damaging and results in oxidative stress, which further degrades the capacity of our brain to strengthen its connection and rewire or reform itself. With that being said, second cause of neural damage and reduced neuroplasticity is chronic stress. When our body is constantly stressed for a longer period of time, like I said previously, it becomes a default setting. And when that is continued for too long, it slows down the ability of our brain to strengthen itself, to rewire and reform, and it impacts our memories, hence short term memory loss. It induces fear within us because we are not stable at all, and brain is constantly in flight or fight risk. So, along with those two, the other causes for reduced neuroplasticity and neural damage is inflammation, and another part is aging and substance abuse. Another main important cause for reduced neuroplasticity is sleep. I have noticed in myself that whenever I'm sleep deprived, I become more irritated, I become more anxious, and I overthink more. That makes so much sense after I learned about this because, like, when I have good sleep, tell me why I'm happy. Even something big happens, I'm able to tackle that without having to worry about it. Sleep is literally when our brain detoxifies itself, when it reorganizes the thoughts, so it declutters itself. And when we don't get enough sleep, our brain is not able to do all of those works properly. And because we are carrying the previous hotter with ourselves, we become more sensitive because it's not working well. That was definition how the neuroplasticity works and what causes the brain ability to degrade. Moving forward, now is the most awaited part, how we can rewire and reform our brain. The most important part of how we can use neuroplasticity for positive impact is through fuel. Fuel is the basis. Without food, we cannot do anything. We have to make sure that we are eating right food to help our brain grow, to help its neuroplasticity. Some of the foods that helps in neuroplasticity is antioxidants. Lack of antioxidants result in oxidative stress because our body or our brain does not have enough antioxidants to tackle the growing free radicals. So antioxidant is really important to maintain brain health. We can find antioxidants in food that is rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, spices, fruits like dark fruits, vegetables, leafy vegetables. Other important antioxidants are B12. B12 is responsible or important nutrients for neural connection. So it is really important that you get your B12. And some other nutrients are omega 3, vitamin D. So eat your vegetables, eat your fruit, eat your balanced diet, eat your spices. Another way to help our brain to grow, to reform and rewire itself is through cognitive activities and mental gymnastics. This is mentioned in the podcast. I just want to reference back to the podcast because that's where I learned the term from, mental gymnastics. Using our brain on a daily basis, giving intense challenges to our brain to think hard. Like we can say reading, writing, studying, playing puzzles, anything that involves brain use, it's awesome for brain growth. And deep conversations, because that uses the frontal lobe of our brain. It is also important to give attention to that part as well because it is a part of our brain and we want all part of our brain to work properly and efficiently. So have that deep conversation with your friend, your family, your partner, you know, whenever possible. Other ways are consistent exercise, workouts, proper sleep, and stress management, of course. So we need to learn how to properly manage stress. For that, you can have a self care time or me time, or you can just hang out with your friends, or you can do some mindfulness activities like meditation or listen to music, which I will talk about a little bit longer in just few minutes. So yeah, just do whatever gives you comfort and just help to stay grounded. We are so busy throughout our days. We have to work, we have to cook for ourselves, have to do our daily activities, and we have to scroll through social media, which is a big part of stress nowadays, for me at least, because we are exposing ourselves and in our brain to so much vast like information out there with the certain situation going on around the world, and there are some thoughts posted on social media. When we watch that, we suck that into our brain and it gets stored in our brain. So it is really important that we declutter, and for that we need good sleep. With sleep, I don't think I should be having the right to say much about it because I myself need to work on my sleep schedule, which I am trying, by the way. But I'm gonna say it because I need the reality check, you need the reality check, everybody needs a reality check. So fix your sleep schedule. Okay, I am trying my best for that. I hope you are also trying your best for that. Find a balance between your daily activities, your work, your study, whatever you're doing throughout the day. Make sure you have the me time and set a fixed schedule for your sleep as well and get proper sleep. Another important way to help neuroplasticity is new environment. Like I said, how our thought pattern is repeated, how the neural connection gets built, it all depends on what environment we are in. So it's really important that you expose yourself to new environments every now once and then, because you need that new environment and new experience to help your brain to learn new adaptations and grow itself. Don't limit yourself to like just homework or your daily activities. Have something new, if not possible every day, like at least once a week or once a month too. Like, and it does not have to be actual new environment. And it can be like listening to new music, it can be doing something new, creative activities like drawing or coloring, just learning new languages. For myself too, it has not been so long after I started this YouTube channel, and I was scared at first because I am an introvert and I had the fear of, talking to camera like this. Even now, I'm not too comfortable, but I have gotten so much better for sure. That's how I am here. I'm talking with you guys to share this topic. So your mind might tell you that you cannot do it, like it's completely new, it's you have to wait. But no, just get on it and start doing it. And once you start doing it, because the neural connection starts to form, and once you repeat that as frequently as possible, the connection gets stronger and it becomes easier throughout the time. Okay, so never get too stressed about starting something new. Go for it, get on it. Trust me, it will get better and it will get so much easier once you actually start doing that constantly over time. The last one on how to help our brain grow and how to strengthen its neuroplasticity is through music. Everyone loves music and they should be loving music. You know why? Because it helps to use all part of our brain, and it also helps in like imagination. Sometimes we listen to some kind of music and then we imagine situations, like I do that. It really helps me to connect to myself, and it is also a part of my stress management experience. I would dance for like 5-10 minutes, like just randomly, because it makes me so happy. When talking about brain health and how we can rewire and reform our brain, affirmations, it's a topic that cannot be ignored. I think affirmations work, but it has to be paired with action. Neuroplasticity itself is also not gonna be, a magic. You have to put the effort and action on a daily basis, constantly, for longer period of time to get the result. In order to become the person you want, you have to put in the effort that takes to be that person, or that takes for that pattern to grow in your mind. Just like how we say actions speak louder than words, it literally applies to neuroplasticity as well. So just saying it out loud and just thinking in our mind is not all the things that can help our brain to rewire itself. That gives the start to it, but we need to put the action towards it in order to adapt to new challenges, in order to get familiar with the new challenges, so that it finds out that the new challenge is not new anymore. So we have grown so much. We have all of the past experiences, all of the past environment that has shaped our mind, that pattern which has been developing from so long, it's really hard to break that pattern. So in order to break that pattern, you will put in same effort for the new ones to build a solid pattern and to use that for positive success. This has been such a great information session for me, and I hope this has been a great session to you as well. And I hope you learned something new about neuroplasticity today. And I hope you actually start using it for your own positive benefit. Nowadays, like whenever there is something new, or whenever my mind goes, oh, that might be too much, or I cannot do it, I just stop myself completely there and I start thinking the other ways. I start to question what's going on in my mind. Like, why are you thinking like that? I can do it. No, it's actually a good thing that happened. Like, I try to repeat the other positive pattern or thought process, so that that connection becomes stronger in my mind, not the previous one. So whatever you're going through, it's not fixed and forever. You can bring the change yourself. So I hope you find the courage and find the right opportunity to do so. And like I always say, keep loving yourself, be kind to people, always take care of yourself. And now we have learned something new about how we can rewire our brain. I hope you can use this to your own benefit and grow yourself to be an amazing and successful person in life. And I hope this goes for me as well. Let's grow and glow together. Thank you for watching. If you watched it until the end, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and comment down below if this helped you in any way. And subscribe to my channel. We'll be talking about all other different topics that helps in self growth and brain growth. Stay tuned for that. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.